Someone told me that you want to learn how to screen print. Well, if you do, you found the right video because I have hands down the best screen print starter kit, and it's called Merch Maker. If you want to watch this video, you got to do me a favor though. You got to stop right now and go hit that like button. I'm going to wait. Now that you did that, if you're watching this video and you have any questions, don't forget to put them in the comments because not only will I be there responding, but the guys from Merch Maker will be there as well. And stay tuned for after the outro. I have 2 tips that'll help you with your journey with the Merch Maker. With no further ado, welcome to Merch Maker 101. My name is Stan Banks, and I teach people how to start t-shirt businesses from home or wherever you're at. And today, I'm going to be teaching you how to screen print using the Merch Maker. Hands down, the best screen print starter kit that this industry has to offer. If you want to pick up a Merch Maker, make sure you use my link, merchmaker.tshirtsidehustle.com. And if you have to call your order in, let them know that I sent you, and they'll take care of the rest. Now, let me teach you how to burn a screen. Okay, so we're about to do everything that we need to do in order to actually burn the screen, which is coat the screen. But the very first thing I had to do was prepare this exposure unit, and I had to pop off the plexiglass right here with a screwdriver, pop these corners out, and then install the bulbs that come with the Merch Maker. The good thing about this is they have the 3 lights that'll help you burn the screen, but they also have what they call a safe light, which is basically a light that allows you to actually work with the emulsion because it's light sensitive. I'm going to do everything the proper way. However, I do know that if you work fast under regular light, usually it really won't give you any problems. But if you leave it out for an extended period of time, it will. And sunlight hurts a little bit more than the actual like light bulbs and stuff like that. But we're going to do everything the right way. So I'm about to go ahead and hit the lights. Before I do that though, I want to go over the things that you'll need. Usually you can use some newspaper or, I'm going to use a cardboard box that I'm going to put under the screens as I go ahead and coat them, just in case, you'll have some mess, a little bit of mess. You just don't want to get it on the table. Now the dye that comes, goes into the emulsion once you mix it, is actually a dye, so it can stain your clothes and different things like that. So just keep that in mind. So the other things that we'll need come in the case here, and we're gonna need our emulsion. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna find our dual cure emulsion, and we're also gonna have to use the activator, which is the diazo activator, which is the dye that goes into this. You need some water, which I didn't bring down, but I'll have to go grab real quick. Then we're gonna actually put some water here, mix it up real well, make sure it dissolves what's in here, pour it in here, mix it around, and make sure it's mixed up very well. And that's pretty much the process of getting the emulsion ready. Now, it's said to last about a month, but if you put it in the refrigerator, I don't know why. I actually had my mom, from when I started with my kids, say, you got some of that stuff still in the refrigerator. And this was maybe like a few months ago. And I was like, I'll just throw it out. But I forgot about it. But you can put this in the refrigerator. Now, if you got kids around or something like that, that may not be the right place if they're not old enough to understand that they should not be eating this. And it's not, I don't know what they would think it is, some type of jello or something. But that they shouldn't eat it. But that's a way that you can store it to maybe make it last a little longer. All right, so I'm going to hit the lights, grab some water, and we'll be back to actually mix up our emulsion. Let there be light. All right, so this is a safe light. Now, I do have a little bit of light coming in from the alleyway here. These windows, this house is brand new. These windows are not covered at all, but we're just going to go ahead and go with it. So what I have here, and I'm actually going to move this up here. That's a nice little video effect. I can stand here and get a little light in my face. Anyway, so we're we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our diazo. Okay, has a little top on it. Pop that off. A little powderish. We have our shot of water. No, I'm just joking. We're going to go ahead and pour it up. It said that it doesn't matter how much water you pour in there. You just want to make sure you get it fully dissolved. So I'll go ahead and cap this bad boy back up. I just left a little bit of room in there so we can actually shake it and it's not just going. So we're going to shake it up real well. Now, one of the things that I didn't talk about is you'll need a place to actually make sure that the screens don't receive light while they're drying. So you can do this one or two ways. You can, or one or three ways, a bunch of ways rather. You can just put them in a dark room or closet or something like that. You can cover them with one of them big black bags, the big trash bags. You don't want to use like one of those thin ones because, you know, some light still comes in them, but one of the big heavy duty bags, or you can just use a box. So instead of taking the foam out of the Merch Maker box, I actually just bought in the Craft Pro box, the heat press box, and I'm going to drop it in there and close it up, and we'll be good to go with that. So I'm not sure how much we were supposed to mix this. Oh, I forgot one thing. I got to go get me something to mix it with. Genius. So I'm going to keep shaking all the way to the kitchen and back, but I will be right back with something to mix this bad boy with, and we'll start the process. I'm back, and I just got a little plastic butter knife. So right now we are going to go ahead and crack open our dual cure emulsion. Okay, and almost made a little mess there. All right, a little bit was on the top, and it's like a little blue color, and got a little bit dripping here. All right, we're gonna crack open our diazo, and we're gonna pour it in here, and we're gonna begin to mix it in here. Okay, so I got it all mixed up. There are some clumps in here, but that's actually bubbles. So if you get clumps or what looks to be clumps where it actually bubbles, you want to let it sit for a little bit of time. I probably could have just stirred it a little smoother. I started to whip it around a little bit, which creates air bubbles when you whip it around, because it wasn't mixing fast enough for me. So now on the back side of that, so now I need to let it sit, which is going to take me more time. But nonetheless, there are some clumps in here, and what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to let it sit for about an hour before I actually go to use it. So we'll be back in about an hour to actually get things together and start using it. Our hour is just about up. We let it sit. I want to walk you over a few things before we actually cut the light off and get the coat in the screen. So we're going to need to go back into our box, and we're going to need our scoop coater. Now this is what we're going to use to actually coat the screen. We're going to fill it up with the emulsion. We're going to pour it in there like such, and we're going to use this to coat the screen. So we need to get this out. And obviously we'll need our screen. Your kit might have came with one. I suggest you order 2 extras. Nonetheless, we have our scoop coater and we got our screen ready. When we do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill up our scoop coater with emulsion. And then once we do that, we're going to take our screen. We're going to work on the back side. This is the flat side that goes down towards the press. And we're going to coat our screen. So what's going to happen is, I have no emulsion here right now. We're going to place our scoop coater on the screen. We're going to tilt it up a little bit so that the emulsion touches the screen. We don't have to worry about it going through the screen, but we don't want to over pour it. Okay, so we're going to start here on this angle. And what's going to happen is we're just going to slide up in one motion, making sure we get an even coat. Once we get to the top, we're going to roll back and we're going to flick off and save the extra emulsion. So it'll look like this. We'll pour, we'll coat, and then we'll flick off the top here, and at that point we should be at like almost a vertical angle. This is just a motion that you can practice without having any emotion, so that now you can just get used to it, comfortable. So sometimes your first coat might not be perfect, and sometimes you may have excess on here. And if you do, you can just do a smooth coat and scoop it all back up into the actual scoop coater. Then you're gonna flip it over. And the inside's a little bit harder because you have this lip here, but you gotta understand you won't get it perfectly to the edge at the bottom here. So you do the same exact motion. Boop, scoop it up. All right, so I'm about to get the lights out and we're gonna go ahead and coat our screen. Let there be light. All right, so we're back now and we're gonna open up our motion here. And as you can see, the bubbles are at the top and they're actually starting to pop now that I opened it. Okay, maybe I should wait a little bit longer on this. You can see it's popping. So I think I'm gonna give it a little bit more time to actually finish doing what it's doing. So I'm gonna actually give us about another 30 minutes. But again, it's popping, so I don't wanna start right now. But as you can tell that this actually works. There were some bubbles in it. I opened it up and the bubbles are popping. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more time and then we'll come back and actually get started. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and get our motion out, and right now the bubbles are gone. If you look closely, they're gone. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pour this into our scoop coater. Get a nice coat in here. Okay, anything that we don't use, we're actually gonna save. So we're not too worried about pouring too much in here. We wanna make sure we got it nice and full enough that we can get a nice even coat on the screen. So I poured like maybe half of what was in here into our scoop coater. All right, so now that we got that ready, we have our screen. We're gonna coat the flat side. This is the bottom. I would like to say the bottom of the screen first, okay, the flat side. And then we're gonna go ahead and flip it over and coat the inside. So to show you guys the motion, we're just gonna kind of raise up. We're gonna take our scoop coater, we're gonna raise it up here, up into a vertical, and then scoop off the rest. And hopefully we end up with a nice even coat. So we gotta rock our emotion on here. We're not too worried about it going through the screen. We just wanna make sure it's all even and pressed. And we're just gonna slide up and scoop it off. As you can see, I didn't get a nice even coat, but what I can do is, it's a good coat, but it's not even around the edges. I didn't have enough of a tilt and it wasn't spread out evenly. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same exact thing here. And look at that coat, that's good right there. So we're gonna go ahead and flip it over. And for this one, I like to kind of start on a tilt backwards so I can get as close to the bottom as possible. And then we're gonna lean it up, look at it, make sure it's feeling it, and then we're gonna coat up. And look what I just messed up. So I kind of did that on purpose, but I want you guys to understand, if you do something like this where you don't scoop it up, what you can go ahead and do is go ahead and do a clean scoop straight up and fix it, okay? Now I just fixed it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it one more time here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get the back because it pushed some of that through, and we have a great coat for us to go ahead and burn our screen with. So I'm gonna sit this down here, and as I told you guys, we're gonna prepare our box here for our dark room and allow our screen to dry. So we're gonna go ahead and hop over and get our screen into our box. So what I'm gonna do is take my screen and put it in the box here. And what I'm also gonna do is, while I'm down here, I'm gonna put this fan in here. I'm gonna plug it in and turn it on. But in order to do that, I need to cut off the safe light. So I'm gonna put this in here and plug it in, turn it on safe, and close it all up. And that'll speed up the process of the screen actually drying. So let's get to that part. We can save all of this emotion as much as we can get out of it. And get my knife. I'm gonna use the flat side and just work it down. Oh man, making a mess. I gotta go upstairs now and just clean off our scoop coater and our mixing tool here. We'll clean all this up a little bit later, but that's the reason that you need a box and you want to have some newspaper around or whatever the case is, because, you know, if you're like me, I'm not the best at coating screens. I actually didn't have to do it that much because we were burning screens in 2 shops, but no worries about the mess. All of this stuff is drain safe. You know, although it will dye your clothes and things like that, it can go down the sink drain and stuff like that, so no worries about that. Actually gonna head up to the kitchen now and go ahead and wash it out. Okay, so the very first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in here and I'm just gonna move all the dishes out the way. Just make me feel better to move them out the way. We're just gonna go ahead and wash it out. Everything's ready to go right now. Our screen is in a box, it's dry. The only thing that we need to actually do is get our transparency together. Now, Merch Maker comes with some InkJet transparency paper that you can use. I'll be covering this at a later date, and if that video is ready, I'll make sure I come back here and link it up for you guys to see. But what I went ahead and did was I sent my film to FedEx and got it printed out for me. So this is what I'm going to be using. It's actually a front and back. We're going to burn the left chest today. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and separate off the design that I actually need, which is the left chest design. Okay, so I just cut that apart. I like to just trim it down just a little bit. All right, so what you're actually gonna need is some tape to tape this down to the screen once it's in position. So let's go ahead and grab our screen out of the box and go ahead and get this thing burned. Okay, so our screen is dry, ready to go. Definitely not the cleanest coat of emulsion, but we should be good to go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna lock our Merch Maker into place. Now, it's supposed to be unlocked by pushing it forward, just so you guys know that. We slide our screen in, and we wanna make sure it's all the way flush to the left side, to this notch here. So this notch should be flush to that. That's gonna make sure that when we put our screens on here, it's lined up every single time that we do it. And we're gonna go ahead and we're going to lock our screen into place by flipping it back up to vertical, okay? So, I actually don't have tape, but we're gonna make it work. So we need to line up our left chest. And the way that I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna put it on the film, and I'm gonna eye down the center point. And you guys know how good I am with my eyes. I'm just gonna go ahead and line it up and make it look as if it was straight. All right, I do want to make sure that I am 3 inches from the top here on the film. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up slightly, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm down far enough when it comes to burning my screen. So I want to be about right there, and I'm just gonna go ahead and line it up vertical there. Let me go ahead and lean you guys in and show you. Got a little bit of a shadow there. All right, but you guys can see that just fine. All right, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is I am going to go ahead and flip over the exposure unit onto the press. So that looks perfect. We're gonna go ahead and flip over our exposure unit with the dowel here facing forward. And we're gonna go ahead and drop that face down onto our screen. If you watched the previous videos, I was like, I don't know why they included a bungee cord in this kit. And it's actually to hold down the exposure unit to make sure it gets a nice and tight seal. So you're gonna go down below here. There is a little notch. You know, slide it in on one side. All right, I'm gonna go kind of on the diagonal. So I lock it on this side. I'm gonna go across here and down below. pulling it really tight, okay, and across, and then locking it in on the opposite side. So now that we got it airtight to it, we are gonna go ahead and plug up the merch maker and then turn it on. Okay, so now that we got it plugged up, we're gonna go ahead and burn the screen. Now, the merch maker burns for 3 minutes, and this is a nice amount of time. It's not too long, it's not too short. You can have a system that is shorter, you can have a system that is longer. It's all gonna depend on what exposure unit you're using, what emulsion you're using, and everything else, the humidity, all of that stuff is gonna play a factor. This is not an exact science, but if you have a system that is together like the merch maker, you can kind of like streamline everything, and everything is geared out and dialed in for you guys to be successful burning screens. This is the hardest part of screen printing. I'd say this time and time again, screen printing, the actual form of printing, is something that you can learn easily. This is the part that people struggle with and takes time to get the system right, because you'll lose a lot of screens, and the merch maker is a perfect cure. When I found these guys at Merch Maker, I knew that this was a valuable system for anybody starting out, because I started with the U-Do, and then I also had the DIY kit, and neither one of those was a solution for burning screens. I had the longest process. I almost wanted to give up using these machines and getting these things going, because it wasn't an exact science. And this isn't going to be an exact science for you as well, but you have a system at which you can build on and troubleshoot, knowing what you're troubleshooting. You know, when you go into these forums and you ask questions to a lot of different people, everybody's going to give you a different answer. But with Merch Maker, you know exactly what you have. You have a company that is behind their product, willing to troubleshoot for you, and we can figure out what your problem is when you're burning the screen easily, because you know exactly what settings or where you should be at for everything that you have going on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the go button, and it's going to start itself to count down, and we're just going to wait and see how it goes. I don't know if you saw that, but it automatically cut itself off, and now we're ready to unhook this bad boy and get it up and wash it out. Right now we're in the kitchen, and if you look real close here, you can actually see a part of the image is already burned into the screen. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in here. Usually what happens is we wet this and we let it sit for maybe a few seconds, and then we will actually spray it again and let this emulsion break down. But if you don't have a hose, you can actually just rub it. Rubbing it is something that you don't always do, but you can do that. So that's actually how I'm gonna burn the screen, just in case you're in a position where you don't have a hose. We're gonna do this the way that a true DIY person would do it from home. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna wet it down a little bit. And look how that image starts to show up. You guys can see it a little bit more. I'm gonna wet both sides. And I'm only really worried about the part where the image is. The rest of this is already hardened, so we just need to soften up the part where our actual image is. So I'm gonna let this sit for a few seconds, and then I'm gonna grab some paper towels and I'm gonna start to get that emulsion out. Okay, so we have our paper towel. I'm gonna wet it up, and I'm just gonna rub this out a little bit, real nice and soft. This is the part to me that is nerve-wracking, because this is where you make or break your screen. You can already see some of it starting to come out. When you see this white portion, that means it's out. And we're gonna do that on both sides of our screen. And just watch it all start to come off. Now over this side, it's on a little bit of a thicker part of the screen, so it's going to take a little bit more time. What are you doing? Back. Sorry, cat. You guys have been watching me for a while. This cat has been bothering me a little bit. So right now I'm just holding it up to the light, taking a look. Okay, and look how clean that came out. This is freaking amazing. I wish I had this when I first started screen printing. Everybody, I want you guys to meet the star and the co-founder of T-Shirt Side Hustle, the new mascot, T'Challa. So I'm gonna make him a character so he can be a part of the channel. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay guys, our screen came out great, and there is one little spot here that we're gonna call a pinhole right there that doesn't affect our main image, so we're good to go as far as that goes. I'll show you guys how to fix that when you're getting ready to print. So we're just gonna let this bad boy dry, and then it's off to printing. Now that the screen is already burned, washed out, dry again, and ready to print, we're gonna need to tape up the insides so that the ink does not come around through the edges. So to do that, we're gonna need some type of tape. Masking tape is a fine tape, but you wanna make sure you get a thicker one. However, I had to get what was available to me. So it's gonna be a little bit of a longer process taping it up, but I'm just gonna get right to it. Okay, so for that first round of tape, I like to make sure it's halfway on the screen and then halfway on the frame. Now, if you have a thicker roll of tape, like maybe a 2-inch roll of tape, you'll be able to get this done in one shot, but we don't. So we're gonna need to go around again and clean up some of the spots, like right here, that still shows some mesh coming through. So I need to get that part done. Okay, so now it looks like we have a nice frame of tape around the edges, got all of those edges sealed up. We need to go ahead and get this one pinhole that I see, and I think that's the only one that I see. Now, I'm gonna say one thing about when you're taping up the screen. The more tape you use, it costs you more, but it saves you time as far as the cleanup goes. So if I were to tape all of this around, all I would have to do is tear off my tape and clean off this little square of ink when it came time to actually clean off the screen. So that's something that you guys can keep in mind. Right now, I'm just going to run with what we have. It will take me a lot of time to take this little inch tape and tape the whole thing up. So this is what we're going to use to print. I'm going to flip it over now, and I'm going to take a little piece of tape, very, very small, and I'm gonna cover up the pinhole from the bottom side. The reason I'm doing it from the bottom is because I'm gonna push my squeegee on the top side. So if I put the tape on the top side, it's more likely to come up. Now, you can cover the holes from the top, especially if you have some stronger tape, but this is the best way, so that way it won't come off and you won't have to worry about it later on some later shirts that you do. I wanna make sure it's small enough as well not to cover up my actual design. So I have one right here. See that? Just covered up that hole that we had earlier. And I believe I had another one. It's way down here. So I'm just going to cover it up just because it's not covered. I just want to have no mistakes. Now, we won't need to push it down this far because our image is way up here. But just to be safe, just in case we have some type of mess, we're going to go ahead and cover that up since this isn't taped off. The last thing that we need to do is lock our frame in place. Now, we already lined it up, so all we need to do is make sure this notch here is in place and ready to go. So now I'm just gonna go ahead, put my frame in here, slide it over so that the notch here is flush with the system. Everything is pushed straight in. We're gonna go ahead and lock our quick release up, and now everything is ready to go. So today, we're gonna be printing a white shirt with black ink. The first thing we're gonna need to do is go into our box and go ahead and get out the things that we actually need to print, which will be our 12-inch wood squeegee, and we're gonna need to find our No More Black ink. So this is water-based ink, and we're gonna print with this, and everything else we do not need. Secondly, we're gonna need a shirt. So I have a white shirt right here that we're gonna use to print on. So let's line this sucker up and get her printed. Now, one thing I'm gonna add, if you're gonna do multiple hits and multiple colors, you're gonna need some type of tack to hold the shirt down. We don't have any, but I'm not too worried because what we're doing should only take one hit. We shouldn't have to lift the screen back up, dry it, and go ahead and put it back down. So with that being said, I'm ready to go ahead and load my shirt on and get her printed. There's one more thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about before I actually got printing, and that's called off contact. And all off contact is this little knob right here tells me how far the frame is from the actual pallet. And what that does is, if you have a slight bit of off contact, which is a gap between the actual platen and the screen, it allows you to get a smoother print. And as you push down, the screen will not sit directly onto the shirt. Off contact is set with this little knob right here. You can twist it to the right to lower it and tighten it, or you can twist it to the left to loosen it and raise it up. It usually comes set, but if it's not, that's how you would adjust it right there. You can set a quarter up on your frame and tighten it or loosen it until you're comfortable with the off contact. That's a very, very simple brief on what off contact is and how it helps you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is gonna load my screen up with some ink, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that by opening up my ink. Water-based ink you do not want to leave out open and exposed, so you want to make sure you clean it up and not let it air dry at all. On the other hand, if you were using plastisol ink, then you could leave it out pretty much all day. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm not going to actually put the ink over top of my actual image. I'm just going to put it just behind. And one thing that I do know is that I have a full squeegee and I'm only printing a left chest, which is maybe 5 inches or 4 inches of the squeegee. So in order to get the whole thing going, I am going to spread a little bit of ink, not an excess amount, but I'm going to spread a little bit of ink off to the side because it'll just allow me to allow my squeegee to actually glide on this side of the screen as well. That's just about all that I need. Go ahead and I'm going to sit this over here and I'm going to close her back up and get it ready for storage. So now that that's ready, we're gonna pop our squeegee behind and I'm gonna raise her back up and line up my shirt. When lining up the shirt, what's gonna basically happen is we're gonna just get our collar hanging off the edge and we're gonna use our armpits to actually make sure that it's straight. And I also like to feel the seams on the side. Now I like to have my collar hang just off of the edge, and I like to try to have my image start 3 inches down. If you can't, then you would have to raise your shirt 3 inches up, or based on how far you want your image from the top of the shirt. All right, we're gonna make sure that our shirt does not cover our off contact back here. And once we got all that ready, looks like we're good to go. All right. When it comes to printing, this is something that you just have to get comfortable with. You can pull or you can push. I personally like to push. Some people don't like to push. Some of the experts might say pushing is not the correct way to do it, but some of the new school generation would say pushing is the way to go because it's less on your body, less on your arms, and it's a natural motion. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna flood first, which is flooding is just pulling the ink back, and then I'm gonna push it through. I'm gonna do that twice, lift it up, and then see what we have. And look at that, we have a perfect print the very, very first time. We have a left chest. We're gonna take it off. We have a perfect print the very first time. Now, we're not done yet. We need to cure this bad boy. And today we're gonna use our heat press and a blow dryer to cure it. You can use any blow dryer for this. What we're gonna do is blow dry this so that it's dry to the touch, and then we're gonna heat set it with our heat press. So once I blow dried it for a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and touch it to see if there's any ink transfer on my finger, which there wasn't. Now I'm gonna press around on a few different spots to check, and there isn't, which means I'm good to go and ready to take her over to the heat press and heat set the ink. We're all done with our ink, so we're gonna go ahead and save up everything that we can. We're gonna open up our ink and scoop it all back up. Now that we got our shirt printed, we need to cure it. It's already dry to the touch, but we need to heat set this. And the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna heat press it twice at 320 degrees for 30 seconds each. This may work or it may not work. The only way to really tell is to put it through a wash test and see what happens. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can cure these shirts, a lot of different times and temperatures. This is just the starting point. Just like burning the screen, curing a print is not an exact science. So we have a starting point and we need to work and figure out what's the best system for us. Okay, so what's gonna happen is we're gonna go with this method today. We're gonna go ahead and wash it and we're gonna test it. See what happens. If it doesn't hold up, then we'll try some different settings. But I think this is a good starting point and it should work out in our favor. So let's get to it. Now we're gonna line the shirt up. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's already in position. Oh, I almost forgot. We need some type of parchment paper. So let's go ahead and put our parchment paper on the press. And I'm gonna line it up over the whole thing here and press it down. The first press allows the water to evaporate. The second press heat sets it. So there we go. We have our print. Now we're gonna go ahead and wash test it. So we have the results of our wash test and our original settings did great, which is good. So let's go over the other prints and how I cured those. Okay, so the first one here is just a blow dry, and if you can look closely, that bad boy turned gray. The rest of them were still at 320 degrees, but I did one press here and I did 90 seconds, which is 3 presses here. And if you look closely, the 30-second press will kind of fool you to say, oh, it still looks good to the eye. But down here, you can see some of it started to fade. If our original 60-second press works, I think our 90-second works just as well. And if you look closely, it does. So what I'm gonna do now is take some very, very good pictures of our wash test results and put it in a blog article over on tshirtsidehustle.com. That blog will be called Merch Maker Wash Test. And you guys can click the link down below in the description and find that article. After using Merch Maker for the very, very first time, I have to say, honestly and truthfully, that this machine is everything that I thought it was, and I wish I had back in 2011 when I started screen printing with the U-Do and then eventually the DIY kit. When it comes to starting the screen print journey, the hardest part is learning to burn the screen. With one of those other kits, it's an actual task on figuring out how to get the screen burned the right way and getting yourself up and running. But when it comes to Merch Maker, this exposure unit makes it worth every penny. I was able to burn my screen right the very, very first time, unlike what I was able to do back in 2011. Now that you've seen the full tutorial of me making a shirt with the Merch Maker, it's time to quit the delay and go pick up your Merch Maker today. Visit merchmaker.tshirtsidehustle.com and get your Merch Maker and start your screen print journey today. Now, don't forget, if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I make videos like this all the time, and you best believe I have more Merch Maker videos on the way. Also, it was a lot of hard work putting this video together, so please go ahead and hit that like button. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below because not only will I be there answering, I know the guys over at Merch Maker will be answering any questions down in the comments. This has been your boy Stan Banks from T-Shirt Side Hustle. Peace. Our shirt came out great, but one of the things that you need to do when you're first starting out is go ahead and get a lot of prints under your belt. The way that we can do that is we can use this shirt and print on every single spot that we possibly can and make sure we just dry them to the touch and move on to the next spot. So I'm just going to run a few prints off so this way we don't have to waste any shirts when we're learning to test print. So right now I just test printed 6 prints on this bad boy, and I just pretty much wanted to show you guys this is what you can do to kind of save up from wasting shirts and different things like that. It's other things you can print on paper, or the Pelons is also something good that you can test print on. But if you ever use a shirt and you make a misprint or you got some rag shirts, you can utilize every inch of it, and then once it's done like this, it becomes the rag that you use to clean up. But what I actually think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna heat set this print and this print, and I'm gonna leave this one with just the blow dryer here, and I'm gonna use this as a 1 shirt wash test. The second and last tip are for a few things that I think you should pick up while you're waiting for your Merch Maker to come in the mail. Ladies may have this, but guys, if you're living alone, you're gonna need a blow dryer. This may cause some questions, but you're gonna need one, or you can go ahead and pick up a heat gun. Secondly, it's some type of craft paper or wax paper in that sense. You can pick this up at the dollar store. And then you're going to need 2 types of tape. One, masking tape. A 2-inch thick roll will be a lot better, and also to have some Scotch tape for your films. So pick these things up and have them ready to go, and you can go have some fun and get printing with your merch maker. Now this is officially the peace out.